Morning, everybody. It's great to have so many of you with us today. I just really enjoyed the short breakout room chat that we had then. Nice to see some new faces and, of course, some familiar faces. I won't mess about. I will introduce Sue Greenwood and Vicky Peacock, who are with us this morning from a new, well, relatively new fundraising group called 500Together. They're a Sheffield-based organisation and set up about roughly 18 months ago. Not exactly the easiest of times to get something going and attempt to build it, but they did, and they really have. Talking to Sue and Vicky, I was really inspired by the way in which they've managed to create a platform for people to donate just £1 a week, but that can have a really amazing impact on the lives of individuals, families or communities. I won't give any more away. I'll let them tell you all about it. Please remember, we'd love your questions. We'll save them to the end of their presentation. So put the questions in the chat function and we'll curate that as we go along. So Sue and Vicky, I will hand over to you now.
Thanks very much, Emma.
Yes, sorry. Hi, so yes, thank you very much for having us. Sue and I are really excited to be here to tell you about 500Together. So what is 500Together and how does it work? Well, it's a really simple but absolutely brilliant, we think, fundraising concept that we're happy to admit that we stole from somebody else. We've copied it from other groups that are operating like this because it really is such a successful sort of model. People can become members by paying in just £1 a week, and they can then leave it at that, or if they happen to know or see somebody that could benefit from our help, they can submit a nomination for an individual or a family or an organisation to receive up to £500. And there are no real strict criteria, but it has to be someone who's in need of help in a situation where that £500 would make a big difference, and we look to help those in urgent need each time and get support to them as soon as we can. So every member puts £1 in. That every £1 that they put in gets given away, and we then tell them where the donation has gone, and we tell them by email, and we also put it on social media so that non-members who might be following us can also find out what's happening, and that encourages them to then come and join us. And one of the attractions is that the weekly £1 goes to such varied recipients, and Sue will tell you about some of those, and people know exactly where their £1 has gone, and we know that the members enjoy hearing about the updates, and there's a real personal feel to the group. We don't know the majority of our members, but we kind of feel like a community coming together to really offer unconditional help to people who need it. Now, our aim is to get to 500 members and give away £500 a week, and we currently have about 280 members, and we make donations every couple of weeks. To date, we've given away £15,000 to 43 different recipients, each one very different, very unique. And when the pandemic hit and we went into lockdown, we still felt quite new, but our model meant that we could just continue doing what we were doing. At the time, we had about 130 members, and we'd made maybe 7 donations, much smaller donations, totaling £2,000. But we've steadily continued to grow and more than doubled in size. And that's meant our donations could get bigger and more frequent. And the pandemic hasn't stopped us attracting new members and continuing to donate where they're needed. And our flexibility means that we can just continue to try to meet whatever need our members suggest to us. And since COVID, inevitably, the types of the nominations that we have received have reflected the new situations people have found themselves in. And I'm going to hand over to Sue, because she can tell you a bit more about how we built up throughout the pandemic period.
Thanks, Vicky. Yes, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how we've operated during the pandemic, because we didn't set out, obviously we didn't know we were going to have the pandemic, but actually our model has worked really well. And we think that's because of 3 key things that have helped our resilience. And the first is the cash flow. So because we've got a really simple members pay £1 in a standing order, we have a regular predictable income, and we've been able to give every penny that comes in out again to people who need it. Our comms has been really good, so we've always from the beginning had all the social media channels, people talking to each other about who we are and what we're doing through social media as well, connecting with groups like this. And we also did a 1 year on survey with members, which was actually a really good way of harnessing their ideas and thoughts about how we were operating, and we could tweak the way that we operate. And also they had lots of ideas for promotion as well. So we've been on radio, in newspapers, magazines, and then we've done some workplace newsletters. Our governance as well has worked brilliantly in the pandemic. There's a small team of us volunteers, and we were already functioning virtually, so again it wasn't disrupted. And we've got people who aren't necessarily living in Sheffield, although we are Sheffield based. The person, for example, who runs our Instagram account is based in London. She's a student in Sheffield, so she has that connection. So that's worked absolutely brilliantly. But I think the key thing is around our model and how flexible we can be. Members nominate where the money goes to, so it reflects what's going on right now. So we've been able to turn that around really quickly and meet the people, the needs of people in the pandemic. So things like laptops, data and routers and clothing vouchers and food vouchers, we've been able to get those out there to people who need it. And also I think in running our group, it's given people a sense of community, of that they're doing something. When we've all been stuck at home feeling a little bit helpless, actually that pound that they're giving has made a real difference to how they feel about making an active contribution to their community. And then the people who receive the help feel that, wow, there's this group of students, strangers that have come together to help them, to lift them out of a difficult moment. And so here's a slide a little bit about some of the people that we've donated to and some of the organisations. So on the right hand side, that young boy there is called Theo, and he suffers with spina bifida, and he grew out of his wheelchair, needed a new wheelchair. So one of our members suggested that we contributed towards the funding of his new wheelchair, and we did, and there he is with his new wheelchair there. In the middle, that's Ant. Some of you may know of him. He runs a brilliant organisation called Always an Alternative in Sheffield, about teaching young people about the risks and dangers getting involved in gangs and knife. And we funded one of his knife and amnesty bins. And there on the left-hand side, there's a lady who was going through all sorts of issues, and she had a hardly functioning cooker, and we were able to buy her that new cooker. Such a simple, small act, but actually makes a world of difference to her everyday life. She can now cook for her family and doesn't have to worry about that on top of everything else that's going on. And then down there at the bottom, we've just got a selection of some of the organisations that we've donated to and worked with. I think some of them might be here today, hopefully. And they're just a selection. There's more too that we've donated to. So how do we tell everyone about it? Well, we've got our social media channels here. So the website has got a blog tab on it, which is really good because you can see all of our donations on that tab. And then we've got really active Instagram account, Facebook and Twitter. And also we email our members as well about what's going on. So every member has a channel or two that they can keep up to date with what's going on. And also people who aren't members can see what we're about and join us through that. So I'll leave that screen on there so that you can jot that down in case you're thinking of joining. It's a brilliant organisation to be part of. It's so rewarding to be part of it, and it's a win-win because we help so many people out. So happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Vicky and Sue. That was a really nice run through, giving us an overview of what you've done. It's amazing how resilient that model seems to have been in particularly tough times. So thank you for taking us through that. If you wouldn't mind, maybe we can actually, no, let's keep that screen up there because obviously it's useful for people to jot those down. We have got some questions coming through here. I'll just read this one out. It comes from Mark Smith, who joined your scheme in January. So you've already got one supporter amongst us, which is great.
Hi,
he says,
Mark.
have you considered whether you could take advantage of gift aid?
Sue, I'll let you answer that one about the charity status.
Yeah, so because we've really quite recently started up and we're relatively small, we want to build up to 500 members. We haven't yet become an official charity. We haven't got charitable status, but it's something that we're thinking about for the future. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Next question comes from Rachel Nunn. What is the criteria of the application? I'm guessing that might mean in terms of people who might approach you because they're experiencing some need. Do you have a criteria that you run through, or is it a discussion amongst your panel? How does your governance deal with that?
Vicky, do you want to take this?
Yeah. So initially, the first thing is that you have to be a paying in member to be able to make a nomination. And then what we ask of members is that they can tell us as much information as they can about the person or the organisation they're putting forward, you know, how they've met them, what the situation is, and importantly, what they would do with the money, what sort of change it would make to them. And then we do have a panel, there's 6 of us, who then we look at nominations that come in. So in the case of multiple nominations, we might discuss them and say, well, this one looks to be the most urgent this week, that's the one we'll support, but other ones we may need a bit more information about, and we try to support them all as best we can. But we, you know, it is very fluid, and it is a case of seeing how our £500 will help, what difference it will make, and we then work with the nominator to use that money. So we wouldn't send, we don't generally send cash to people. We see what it is that we would be able to get for them. So the lady with the cooker, her nominator bought the cooker and arranged for its delivery, or we might get food vouchers or clothing vouchers, so that we know that the money we're sending out is going to be spent where we've agreed to spend it, and also our members then have that sort of security as well of knowing that they can trust us to how we're handling it.
Okay, thank you for that one. There's a couple of different questions coming in on a similar theme, asking how best can people get involved. I'm guessing that means they might like to become a member. Where's the best place to sign up?
Best place is to go to the website. That then gives you information of our bank account and how to set up a standing order. So it's a case of setting up a standing order for £1 a week, using your name as the reference, and then there's also then an email address on there that if you email us, we can then add you to the mailing list to ensure that you get all the information, you know, and you get news of the donations that are being made. And equally, any questions you've got, if you look on the website and get our email address, then you would come through to Sue or I, and we could help you out.
Okay, next question comes from Michael Swindles. As a model initiative, how do you fund any basic operating costs?
So we are just a group of volunteers. We've got day jobs and other things going on in life. So because of the model, it's so simple. The basic operating costs are 0 apart from our time, and so in that sense, it's very simple and works very simply.
Yeah, I would add that just every pound that comes in goes out. So we don't use any other money for anything. Every single pound that the members pay gets given to somebody.
Okay, thank you. Next question comes from Pamela Hopkinson. Do you have members that are businesses, or is it all private individuals?
We do have, well, not so much businesses. We have some members who are from organisations. So they have joined us, which then allows them to nominate somebody that they may have come upon from their organisation, or somebody completely different. But we do have, the majority of members are individuals, but we do have some who have come from organisations as well.
And I think just to add to that, the thing that we can do that perhaps other models can't is we can turn stuff around really quickly. So we can get a nomination in and within days get the support out there to who needs it. And so, you know, working alongside other models, that it complements the way that other perhaps charities work. And so having people who are members who are also part of the charity who see an instant need, it's a route to some very quick help.
Okay, just two more questions here. I think you might actually have touched on this, but are all your beneficiaries Sheffield only, or is it the surrounding area? Do you have a broader reach than just Sheffield?
Yeah, well, actually, it's not necessarily, we don't have a rule that they have to be in Sheffield. So as an organisation, we've sort of called ourselves 500 Together, and it's Sheffield based. But if people nominate someone or an organisation that's not in Sheffield, we will definitely consider it. So, for example, Theo, he's from Barnsley, so we're going as far as that.
No, it's really not that far, is it?
No, but the good. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but if someone nominated someone in, further away than Barnsley, we would definitely consider it as part of our nomination panel. So we're not restricted to Sheffield, no.
And most of our members are from Sheffield, but some of them are from further away, and so we wouldn't preclude them from sending in a nomination. If the need was there, then we would look to support it.
Okay, there's a really great question here from Sarah at City Hearts, who thinks this is a really great model and idea. And she asks, is there a particular channel that you find engages supporters most and helps to reach new supporters? So either through your website, social media, email updates, or mail outs. What do you find is the most effective?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the answer is it depends on the people reading or connecting. So some people really connect to Instagram, but that's completely lost on a whole swathe of other people. So it does depend. But what I would say is the word of mouth, just chatting to people and doing things like this and being able to explain what we do is probably the most effective way of generating members. So going on the radio and doing interviews and meeting different charities, just being able to bring the idea alive, I think, has been the most effective way of recruiting people. Would you agree with that, Vicky?
Yes, I would do. And I think whilst we do have got some different members from Twitter or Instagram, often it also helps if that has been a link from somebody's friend. Somebody shares it and they recognise the person who shared it. So it's a kind of, again, a word of mouth sort of thing. I think people trust it more if they have heard of it from somebody else. And I think definitely the sort of personal touch is what makes a big difference, even if it's through social media.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I think I've got two more questions, and then we'll probably move into our next networking session. The first one I'll go to is from Lucy, who says, "How do you decide who sits on the decision-making panel?" And I think in some ways you've maybe covered that by explaining that it's a membership forum, and that's how decisions get made. Am I not understanding that clearly?
The decision is no. We have a group of, there's 6 of us, and essentially they're people who, when we first started the idea, it was just Sue and I, but we wanted to involve some other people from different, they're people that we knew, some well and some less so well, but from different walks of life, that we just thought would give a sort of broad view of to make some decisions, and so that we can have a vote on it if there's, generally speaking, we tend to agree, but we can then have discussions and a vote so that there are some different viewpoints coming to look at each nomination.
Yes, got on our decision-making panel of 6 people. We've got a psychologist, a social worker, a couple of civil servants, a carer and a health researcher. So we've got a mix of people from different backgrounds, live in different areas of Sheffield, and can just give different perspectives. And it is great, actually, because when we share around the nominations, we do get people. It's a really nice group that we challenge each other on the nominations that come through, and we kind of sense check with each other. It works fantastically.
Great stuff. We've had some really, really lovely questions there. If you wouldn't mind stop sharing your screen, that would be great. There are still a couple more questions that are in our chat, but I'll send those to Vicky and Sue, and we'll make sure that those get answered either through the email I send out after the event or otherwise. So I just want to say a really big thank you to Sue and Vicky for joining us. There was an awful lot of encouraging comments in our chat just there, saying that people think what you're doing is amazing and clearly extremely effective. you know, as I said at the beginning, I found it really inspiring seeing how big the impact of what feels like direct action can be. And I certainly think in the last few months, when we have felt a little bit useless in lockdown, where we can't go out and maybe join in the things we would normally do through volunteering or helping out, this is another way to make a big difference. So thank you so much for your time, and good luck in bringing many more members to your group.